First of all, I would like to thank the supporters for the confidence they had in me. I was young at that time, and I also want to thank our supporters for the patience that they have and the continued patience, and to assure them that patience pays. However, when we agreed with Nyasa Manufacturing Company, the key issues that we agreed, there were 6 key issues that we agreed. Number 1 was the transfer value of Nyasa Big Bullets, that they are going to take the club at 1 quarter, and they're going to pay all the debts of the club. I'm glad today that the debts at that time were 183, which were non-debts. But when the nation knew that Nyasa has started paying, then we had companies coming in, the Skylinks, 20 million, which was additional. So Nyasa Manufacturing Company ended up paying more than 300 million additional debts, which were not appearing on our list because some guys decided not to make a claim. We didn't have the actual claims. So on the nominal value, which is item number 1, and item number 2, which was that they will settle all the debts in 6 months, that was done. Then we had agreed with Nyasa Manufacturing that they will have to acquire a bus within 6 months. This was done. However, we had a problem with the bus because when immediately the bus came to Malawi, it started developing faults. We didn't know that the bus was reconditioned. During our meeting yesterday, we are proud that Nyasa Manufacturing Board has actually approved an additional $120,000 for us to buy a new bus. Not only have they approved that, but we have got an agent who is Mark Katsonga Piri, the owner of AXA, who has assured us that the bus, for them to import the bus into the country, it will only take 3 months to come into the country. But due to COVID, maybe the bus may not be here. But the good news that I can give you supporters today is that after our discussions, your patience has paid. Nyasa is going to buy a new bus through the agent AXA at the price of 100 million kwacha, which is equivalent of $120,000, already approved, and money is available as we speak. The other issue was for the Nyasa Manufacturing Company to construct a stadium, not less than 10,000 seats. However, on this issue, it's becoming tricky because, as you know, the government is going to construct a stadium for Nyasa Big Bullets. So yesterday we had a long discussion whether it's viable for us as a club to own 2 stadiums, knowing how costly it is to own 2 stadiums. So we're going to take it back to the supporters to discuss how best we can do this, because for me, personally, I don't think it's wise for us to own 2 stadiums as a club. I haven't seen any club in the world that owns 2 stadiums. So on the stadium issue, we had agreed that within 5 years, Nyasa will initiate. So we'll come back to you on that, or the chairman, when it's his turn, he will speak more on that issue. The other issue was that Nyasa Manufacturing Company will have to acquire a training ground. We have been looking for a ground. The places we are finding the ground are far away outside town. And we actually think that's not a good idea to have a stadium, say, towards a training stadium towards Mpemba or towards Lunzu. The other land we found was towards Chireka after the airport, down there. Sometimes our supporters want to go and watch our players training. So anywhere around the College of Medicine where we do our training and Blantyre Sports Club was going to be more ideal for us to be within. But these are the issues that when we meet the supporters, they will tell us, because as we know, the club belongs to the supporters, but the ownership belongs to Nyasa Manufacturing. The other issue which is related to that is the agreement that we had that Nyasa is going to acquire clubhouses, Blantyre, Lilongwe, and Nzuzu, within the first 3 years. What had happened on the acquisition of the clubhouses is that we found one clubhouse further down for the same reasons of having a training ground far away from the city, where we are saying, should we really have a clubhouse towards Machinjiri? What if the stadium is Manasseh area, which is CI? which we think the government is definitely going to construct there. And believe, if the supporters or the game has ended, do you have to travel from all the way from there to go to your clubhouse? So we also are looking for a clubhouse that should be within the vicinity of Blantyre. So the president will tell us more about that. About the football academy was one of the agreements which was there, and Nyasa also commits to list Nyasa Big Bullets Football Club on Malawi Stock Exchange within 5 years, and at least offer 30% of the shares to any interested supporter, investor, or general public, and in the spirit of sustainable goodwill and truly become the people's team. I think the president will also speak more on that. So, to cut the long story short, I think if we are to balance, based on the relationship, it's like a marriage. You will expect that your wife will do everything, but she can't do it 100%. But because there are a few things that are not going right, you don't just come and say, let's divorce. There are issues you discuss. That's where I thank the supporters for their patience and their confidence. And I can assure you, supporters, that Nyasa Manufacturing Company means well to our football club. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this juncture, the president is going to make the concluding remarks. It's very important that we pick that. So, Mr. President, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, sir.
I think I want to make a harsh opening statement first. The reality is that there's only 2 clubs in this country that have got a commercial drive that are not reliant on handouts, and that's ourselves and Civil, if I get that correctly. And I think it needs to be appreciated by the press and the supporters, and I don't take lightly what the press does, because you are a conduit to spread the correct information to the supporters. However, it has come to my knowledge that lately there's a lot of misinformation being spread by the press. So I want to rectify a few things today, and I'm hoping, and it will become evident, who will spread the right message to the supporters. This club is a limited company, and this company needs to be run like a company, which means you have to put money in, raise money, and make sure that you don't lose money, otherwise this club will die. So a lot of this came up because people don't believe or are misinformed, but I want to rectify this. This board of Nyasa Big Bullets is a very strong board. Every time you spread misinformation, you're taking people of high regard that sits around this table and you're making them look like liars. So I want the press to be a conduit for Nyasa Big Bullets and spread the right word back to the supporters. The supporters react on what you guys do. So that's my opening statement. Now back to the order of the business of the day. Over the last 3 years, Nyasa Manufacturing has spent more than 1.2 billion kwacha on running Nyasa Big Bullets Football Club. That is a massive undertaking and should not be taken lightly. This is a big, big job. For example, winning the first prize of the Super League gets you 15 million kwacha only. How do you recover money? So you need commitment from the board, and you need commitment from the sponsor, and you need commitment from the owners to make sure that this club is run properly. And in hindsight, if anybody can look what's happened over the last 3 years, there has been massive commitment from all three those parties for the welfare of this club. Secondly, we are in COVID 2019. The whole season, not playing games. There is zero income for this club. But let me tell you guys now, all the rumors that have spread that we have cut people's salaries is a lie. We have taken our players and our team and our technical staff, and we are still looking after their livelihoods. That is the heart and the nucleus of our club. Thirdly, the MOU that's come and stuck its head out. This board has got the heart, and I'm talking about Honorable Lipipa and the rest of the board, has got the heart of Nyasa Big Bullets is their first priority. And they have made sure, the steering committee have made sure that there's constant pressure on the agreements that were made to make sure that those agreements are abided by. And me as president of the club, I wear both hats. I wear the hat for Nyasa Big Bullets, but I also wear the hat for Nyasa Manufacturing Company. So when I sit around this table, I look strictly at the needs of Nyasa Big Bullets Football Club. It has been a massive undertaking, and we have not failed. We have failed on a few issues, but it's not for the lack of trying. For example, getting the training ground. I mean, the supporters chairman is behind me. We have been to maybe 10 grounds to look at. Nothing has been sufficient. We've had challenges with the clubhouses. And that is something that's not that we haven't paid attention to the contractual obligations, but it's basically because we haven't found the right place. So I haven't got much more to say. All I can say to you that this board and the sponsors and the owners are fully committed to the public, the supporters, and the nation to make sure that Nyasa football is still and will be #1 in this country. We have, over and above that, we have convinced the sponsors 2 years in a row now to take us to CAF. This board knows, Chifundo, what was the money that was spent just on the CAF games? 150 million kwacha, just to take the team to CAF. So I want the doubt from the supporters to be quelled, to say, believe in your board, believe in the sponsor, and believe in the people who own this club.
Thank you very much for enlightening us. My question is, what further plans do you have to make sure that, yes, you are putting money in the club, but football is a business, you want money to come in as well?
Can I answer now? Because I see another hand come up. Maybe we just answer one by one. Yeah?
I think
Ask and then you can answer those two questions at once.
Right. My question on the football pitch, that in the contractual agreement, there is that line. But understanding from the government point of view, there's 2 stadia for Bullets and Wanderers that have been also mentioned here, government properties, and the 2 clubs will only be leasing. And then, in my understanding, or if I'm misquoting you, you correct me, you say that you don't think it is proper for the club to have two stadia. Are you banking the government stadium as your own property when you only just be leasing? And at the same time, remembering at the time when you had a joint press briefing as Bullets and Wanderers, when President Tariga made the statement, made that promise, you gave a plan that you had a plan to construct a stadium at Nyasa is a roundabout, and also one for the reserve side, the youth side, and the Kitawira, where there is Kitawira Stadium. So, because telling us that you had plans to construct the stadium at Kameza and the other one there at Kitawira, it went through already. So, has the comfortability disappeared in you after the stadium, the team? And at the very same time, Mr. President, you've talked about we're in a time of COVID-19, which means zero collection for the club. How much have you been affected, or how much losses has the club made reaching this fund?
Okay, no, thanks for that. I think, Noel, if you don't mind, let me answer the two questions, and then you can answer the stadium question.
I can answer.
Yeah, so that's quite simple.
Thank you.
The vision of this club was actual football development. We have invested quite heavily in our coach, our technical and training, fitness. There's other developments that have happened that maybe the CEO can bring you guys up to date with. But we believe that the nucleus of this team and the strength of this team is we are number one. We don't like number two. Nobody remembers number two. Nobody remembers number three. We are number one. So the vision for our club is to get the training and the development on team level up to a different level that we can compete effectively in CAF. So we've wet our feet in the CAF championships, but we've come short. That means we are lacking somewhere at the bottom. The other investment that we've made is into our junior teams, because you have to grow your youth to build into that team. We don't have to buy players from any other clubs. We've got our own youth that you have to nurture and train and get them into that. But our vision is CAF. We want to be in the top 10 in Africa. I mean, that is where we have to be. Yeah, that's our strength. If we reach that pinnacle, then we can look at maybe something else. But everybody's focused for that in time being. The second question was from you regarding what? Sorry, I forgot. The stadium was for you. Then you asked me another question.
Or the losses that you've made.
Oh, losses. I'm trying to avoid that question.
COVID.
Listen, COVID has affected the entire world. I think we've been fortunate by the grace of God, and I don't understand how COVID has not spread the way it has worldwide. But it's had a massive effect economically right through the world, from the richest to the poorest country. Nothing has changed in Malawi. The gate takings is a big part of the income of this club. But I can tell you, as of we sitting today, that from March to September, this club will lose 300 million kwacha. It's a massive number, but therefore, I need you guys to relay the message again properly, to understand the commitment that this board, the sponsor, and the owners have, because we haven't just thrown this club under the bus, excuse the pun, but the reality is that's our baby, that's our responsibility, and those three parties are still standing firm behind the commitments. So maybe, Noel, if you want to say something about the stadium.
Yes, I think the issue about the stadium must not be taken, for government to give us the stadium, or the two stadiums, it just didn't happen in a vacuum. There was a lot of work that we did to convince the president, because the DPP government's policy on youth empowerment also touches on sports development. So we saw an opportunity and convinced the president, and there were issues to say you cannot use government money to build a private stadium, if you remember. But in Italy, when they wanted to develop football in 1925, the government made a point and built one stadium for two clubs. I'm not sure, in the 1980s, these two clubs made an offer to government and bought the stadium. So basically, after 25 years, in the agreement is that the stadiums will still be owned by government. After 25 years, we'll have to make an offer to them. First of all, they will have collected all their 3.5 billion. You know, the government has already approved 3.5 billion, 3.8 billion on the two stadiums. So by next year, the stadiums will be ready for use. So that's why when we sat down, we say, does it make sense that even after COVID, even after spending over 1.2 billion, we should now take an additional 2 billion and build another stadium, when the other stadium is going to be ready, and after that, we're going to have to buy that stadium off from government. It will still be us to do that.
And
so that's why I said we're going to refer that to supporters first to see if it makes sense, and then we're going to end up with two stadiums. Do we have the money to manage the two stadiums?
No.
That's why it was not conclusive. I said we'll take it back to supporters to hear what their view is on. But for me, as someone who has done business, I think it makes less business sense to own two stadiums, because the other one, we will own it in 25 years and we'll have to buy it from government. That's why the government cannot build any stadium for a private company. I think that answers the questions. In talking about the space you mentioned, Tingumbe, there are problems with encroachment of land. I think when we went there, that we need a report from lands. The problem, when we went there, we found that a lot of people there were a lot of encroachment issues, so many families claiming that they own the land, the papers are not ready, so even on the register, we don't have the real owner of that particular land. So I cannot advise Nyasa Manufacturing Company to invest in that particular property when we know we may lose that money. So that was the issue why we didn't even push along that line. But if you heard my statement correctly, we said on the stadiums, if the supporters insist to say, spend another 2 billion and build the stadium because it's a must, it's a law, it's a contractual obligation, they have to do it. When we know that we're also going to have another stadium, it will be up to them to give us that. But when we discussed yesterday, we saw no wisdom in owning two stadiums. It will be very difficult. You saw what happened at the Bingu now. The sponsorship being pulled out. Already Bingu National Stadium makes losses every month. The water bills, the electricity for them to maintain. So imagine if we were to own two clubs. The idea of us commercializing this club is that we should grow sports in this country. We should be the biggest in Africa in the next 20, 30 years. So the idea must not be the one that will tell Nyasa Manufacturing Company board, I say, gentlemen, wait a minute, we're making a loss here, we're losing a lot of money, why don't we divorce the agreement? So it's a win-win situation for both sides. Only that most of our supporters actually think that it's only Nyasa Manufacturing that is winning. That's the reason why we're actually mentioning these figures. Because we will get there. They may take 15, 20 years for them to get their money back, but they will eventually get their money back. So every supporter needs to understand now that they are spending a lot of money. Imagine all the players that now it's been agreed, and I can tell you with confidence, there will be no salary cut. When everywhere else in the world, people are getting salary cuts. What kind of commitment do we need? Because when we say we are a club, we have supporters. We support the club because there are players that play for the club.
What you need to understand is because we run this as a commercial entity, we have audited set of accounts. So there's total transparency in terms of what investment the sponsor is putting in, what investment the owners are putting in, the expenses of running the club, and a profit and loss account for the end of year. And that's why we actually audit, because the audited set of accounts gives you transparency. Nothing to hide. If you want to call it over expenditure, I had the same question for the board yesterday, but we dissected the numbers yesterday, and it's not over expenditure, it's development. whatever we're doing is in terms of team development. So yes, your expenses are going higher because you're employing more people. There's more development within the team. But it's not sustainable. We actually keep on going back to the sponsors and knocking on their door and begging for more money. However, I must tell you that we are now starting to face a little bit of resistance from the sponsor, and we have literally knocked on everybody's door in this country to come and sub-sponsor or co-sponsor. Nobody wants to invest the money. Times are tough, not just for Malawi, everywhere. So this is, well, all I can say is the numbers are very transparent. That's why we've got auditors doing the numbers. And as businessmen, a lot of us are businessmen on this table, we understand that you have to cut back on expenses. Worldwide, everybody's taken salary cuts. Even locally, the president and them have taken 10% cut to the salary to help with the COVID. But after we discussed yesterday, Malawi is a very unique situation. If you live somewhere and you go to your landlord tomorrow morning and say, Abwan, please can you reduce my rent by 30%, do you think your landlord is going to listen to you? No. So we've taken in consideration what's unique to Malawi. And we said, guys, you know, the salaries we pay, that's the lifestyle that these people live. Where do you make the saving? It's very difficult to make a saving. You go to ShopRite today, you go anywhere, all the prices have gone up. How do people survive? So what we decided as a board yesterday is, and no, we have, just to answer, we have not spoken to the players yet, because it was a board decision yesterday. So what we decided that there is no cut. Currently, there's no cut. If COVID lasts for another 2 years, we are in serious trouble. Then, I mean, everything, so, but as we're sitting now, there is no cut for the players. The wealth of the players and the staff is key. That's what we decided as a board yesterday. Does it pay us to demoralize the people, take their salaries away? No. There's talk about starting training, I think, end of July, is it? Start training. So, you know, you want people in fighting spirit. You know, you want people in losing spirit. So look after your people, look after the team, and make sure that if there is a league this year, we win it again. That's the thing.
Just to add on the president's comment, this is a bigger confirmation that this board is not a weak board. Correct. Because that decision of no cut was actually debated and deliberated, and a resolution came that we shouldn't do the salary cuts. I don't think any other club is doing that. Even this, our other sponsor in South Africa have already cut salaries for Dynamos.
Their own Dynamos.
In Zimbabwe.
40%.
40%. But our board decided, no, we can't do that. Because the welfare of the players, they can't go to their landlord and say, give me 30% cut. So the president should have been the one to break the news. So I broke the news, unfortunately. Thank you.